Hey there, everyone, and a happy Friday to you all. I'm Errol Barnett, in for our friend Vladimir Dutier as we watch all the news happening around the U.S. and around the globe right now. We've just received a pivotal jobs report, which comes after the first full month of the second Trump administration. We're about to break down what it means and explain what it says about the state of the economy. And soon, the first ever White House crypto summit gets underway. Who's attending and what you need to know about the president's digital currency agenda coming up. Plus, SpaceX Starship rocket explodes during a test flight, sending fiery debris through the air. What we know about what went wrong. This is CBS News 24/7. But we begin this hour with the latest jobs report. The Labor Department says the U.S. added 151,000 jobs in the month of February, but the unemployment rate ticked up to 4.1%. Jobs in the federal government in particular have declined as DOGE continues to trim the size of federal agencies. And you see the Dow Jones Industrial Average losing some, gaining some, relatively flat this morning as they try to make sense of what these numbers mean. Why don't we try to do the same and bring in CBS News business contributor and business editor for the Dallas Morning News, Javier David. Javier, great to chat with you once again this morning. These numbers, job numbers come in and it's slightly less than what was predicted. Still pretty solid, though. So how do you see them?
Yeah, I mean, that's just the best way to take it. Nothing to write home about, but certainly solid numbers in the context of a labor market that has been weakening. One of the things that caught my eye, we're first and foremost, we're still well below 5% in terms of unemployment. So that's a good thing. Yeah. Secondly, people are still earning money. Average hourly earnings on the rise, up 0.3%. 4% above the earlier level. So again, that's probably something that the Fed would watch closely. They do like to know how much people are making and whether that's making its way into economy and stimulating demand. Good thing for workers, obviously, but not so encouraging for the inflation outlook.
Right. And as we were talking earlier today, it's just one data point. This unemployment, though, does include more than a third of layoffs that were government workers. That number is around 10,000 people, which sounds so big, and it's people's lives, it's their livelihoods. But how does this impact non-government sectors? Because I know it's not the full picture.
Yeah, it's not the full picture. 10,000 federal workers laid off. So we're starting to sort of see the trickles of the chaos that's going on with DOGE and federal layoffs. Again, this report was not expected to capture all of those numbers. However, it's not the full picture in that you still have ample state and local hiring, and the fact that the healthcare sector is still doing quite well, adding jobs. That was the bulk of the gains during the month last year.
And meanwhile, we have so much happening. President Trump reversed some tariffs on Mexico and Canada yesterday. It's been a dodgy week on Wall Street. The uncertainty really is keeping investors from making any long-term decisions. How is that playing into the overall sentiment people are feeling?
Yeah, I mean, the sentiment is huge. And Axios had my favorite headline of the week was we went from the Trump bump to the Trump slump. You know, the firestorm of all of these tariffs. We've surrendered all of the post-election gains, and NASDAQ is now in correction territory. Investors are really petrified about all of this whipsawing of policy decisions with major U.S. trading partners talking about countermeasures of their own. Markets tend to overreact and then they underreact, and these are very volatile times, short term. But current conditions are really not favorable to what the administration wants to accomplish, and it's not good for the sentiment, and it has trickle-down effects in terms of how people feel and what they're willing to spend. And when they see all of these chaotic headlines, at some point they may start to pull back on their spending, and you don't want that.
Yeah, and the Dow Jones relatively flat at this moment. Javier David joining us from Dallas. Thanks so much. Let's now cross over to CBS News senior White House reporter Jennifer Jacobs. Jennifer, warm welcome to CBS. It's my first time chatting with you live. I'm such a fan of your work, so great to have you with us for the past few months. I know you've been here for a while. But how is the White House responding to this new jobs report?
Well, they pointed out to me that they see a few positive trend lines. Of course, it's not the best jobs report that there could ever be coming for a White House, but politically, they're seeing it as a decent jobs report. You've got Kevin Hassett going out and telling everyone it's quote unquote fantastic. He's stressing the number of cars, autos, jobs that were created. They're, of course, just picking out the positive things from the report and stressing that because no White House wants to disturb the markets. President Trump wants a stable or rising economy, and this job report is stable. It shows that employment is stable, even though unemployment ticked up that tiny bit. It is a stable jobs market, so they're able to pick and choose the most positive things from this report and stress that.
Now, we know that President Trump is hosting the first ever White House crypto summit today. A lot of our viewers interested in what's happening in crypto. He signed this executive order establishing a Bitcoin reserve. So what can we expect from that? Because I know some crypto followers are also disappointed that the administration isn't doing more.
So you'll see a lot of messaging on crypto. This White House is shifting from its predecessors in that it's trying to move the cryptocurrencies into a mainstream. So there's going to be this summit today with a lot of different crypto investors and crypto leaders. You'll see crypto.com and Coinbase. And of course, President Trump's crypto czar, David Sachs, will be hosting all these people. There's a long list of people from the industry who will be involved in the summit today. And it's all about sending a message about cryptocurrency and the president's support for it. And as we know, he and his family have a financial stake in crypto. So there's going to be a lot of discussion amongst reporters and the general public about that particular aspect of it. But the whole point of it is to just kind of send the message that this is an administration that supports cryptocurrency, that it's investing in crypto, it's got the new crypto reserve, and that there's confidence in crypto.
And Jennifer, we know that President Trump has signed a number of executive orders and has hinted toward one that would eliminate the Department of Education. Can we expect that to be signed today? If not, what else might be signed?
No. Sources told Nancy Cordes and my colleague Nancy Cordes, that it will not be signed today. So it is coming. And Linda McMahon has been saying today that he is going to sign it. I'm told that there are just a few more changes that need to be signed on that education EO. The president still does want to start the steps for dismantling that department. Linda McMahon is working on sending messaging on that, talking about how employees can expect a good off-ramp, that there are opportunities for the people who lose their jobs at the education to move into something different. So they're starting to kind of lay the groundwork for the dismantling of the education department. But know that it's not coming today, but we should expect it very soon. I'm told that there could be another cryptocurrencies, EO. Of course, he signed one yesterday, creating that reserve for Bitcoin. There could be another crypto reserve or another crypto EO coming today. That's not clear yet. A lot of times what the president does is they have a lot of EOs ready for him to go at any moment, and he can just kind of pick and choose what he wants for the day.
Very interesting stuff. Jennifer Jacobs, a comprehensive update from you. Enjoy your weekend. Great to see you.
Thanks.
President Trump is now pausing border taxes on many Canadian and Mexican imports after announcing hefty tariffs earlier this week, you'll remember. While Mexico lifted some retaliatory tariffs of its own, Canada's not backing down. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe brings us more from Toronto.
Just 2 days after imposing 25% tariffs on the U.S.'s closest trading partners, President Trump is now pulling them back somewhat, at least for now. And the Canadians we've been speaking to here over the last several days feel they're being unfairly punished. It's not entirely clear what exactly the president is seeking and whether this tariff war will ever definitively end. Now, one of the reasons the president says he's doing this is to root out the spread of illegal drugs like fentanyl, which he claims comes across the border from Canada into the United States. Truth is, the percentage, though, is quite small. And in fact, in talking to some Canadian officials here, they say, we've been fighting this. We've been trying to seek it out. They have caught some modest amounts of fentanyl, much more cocaine. And they point out that it's actually illegal drugs and guns coming from the United States into Canada that's become a bigger problem. So perhaps the United States needs to also work on security along its northern border. And even though the president has temporarily suspended tariffs on goods imported into the United States as part of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement that he helped negotiate during his first term, The Canadians aren't entirely backing off. The head of Ontario, the province we're in right now, says that starting Monday, there will be a 25% tariff on electricity fed into the states of Minnesota, Michigan, and New York. He said he spoke this week with the governors of those states, warned them that this was coming, and said anyone who's concerned shouldn't call him. They should call President Trump, their governors, their members of Congress to complain. And President Trump, of course, has upended American politics over the last several years. But what's going on here is also upending politics in Canada. The tariff war has actually caused a tightening in the general election race here between the ruling Liberal Party and the opposition Conservatives that were expected to win back the premiership later this year. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is stepping down this weekend. His party is picking a successor. And recent polling shows that ever since the president threatened these tariffs on Canada, that race has tightened. And there's now a good chance that the ruling Liberals could conceivably hold on. We'll wait and see. Ed O'Keefe, CBS News, Toronto.
Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, lawmakers now have just 1 week to agree on a spending plan to avoid a government shutdown. Speaker Mike Johnson said the details could be released as soon as today. CBS News senior congressional correspondent Nicole Killian is tracking this for us and joins us live from Capitol Hill. So, Nicole, what do we know? I know this morning when we spoke, you said we haven't seen the text yet. We don't know the details. When might we get a glimpse?
Yeah, well, we're kind of still in that same holding pattern right now, Errol, but we have a pretty good idea of what this might be. House Republicans had said earlier in the week that they were leaning towards putting forth a year-long CR or continuing resolution, which would be a short-term funding package, which ideally that is not the route that they wanted to go. You know, there have been appropriators on both sides of the Capitol that have been trying to reach a broader spending deal on top-line spending to fund government agencies through a process called regular order, where you pass 12 separate appropriations bills. But those negotiations have kind of stalled out, although most recently we were told they were pretty close. So this really, in terms of a spending plan, would just be a patch to kind of keep government agencies funded at current levels through the end of the fiscal year.
Let's speak about the latest on the DOGE cuts. We know we had this week's announcement about cutting thousands of jobs at the VA, and that seems to have really sparked a backlash among lawmakers, even Republicans, who have a lot of veteran supporters who they make promises to. What's the latest there?
Yeah, that's right. Well, probably some of the sharpest reaction came from Kansas Senator Jerry Moran, who heads the Senate VA committee, who acknowledged, the need to downsize, but he also pointed out that it should be done in a more responsible manner. And so that is the sentiment of some congressional Republicans. However, I would note, when Elon Musk was here on Capitol Hill, when that word came down about those VA cuts, there were many House Republicans in particular who defended the cuts. There were some people who told me, look, we want to see more details, but there were others who said, look, if that's what needs to happen to kind of make the agency more efficient, so be it. Even if these are veterans. One person I talked to was Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, who heads the House DOGE subcommittee. And she told me that, she is confident in the secretary's ability to make these types of decisions with respect to personnel. And she said, with or without these employees, she feels that the Department of Veterans Affairs needs to do a better job. So she felt that, if you need to cut people to make the department more efficient and better and do more for veterans, then she was all for it. But yes, there are many who feel this might have been a bridge too far and hope that the agency walks it back.
All right, we'll see what develops. Nicole Killian with the latest. Thanks so much. We move our focus to Southern California now, where crews responded to several water rescues Thursday night. And this was after floodwaters submerged cars in parts of San Diego. This video, in fact, is from La Jolla, where you see roads essentially turned into rivers from the heavy rain overnight. Let's bring in CBS News Philadelphia meteorologist Grant Gilmore with a look at the national forecast. Grant, I'm hoping that the flooding is behind them for folks in Southern California, but what are you seeing?
Yeah, that system's moving out, Errol, and that's good because it does bring a lot of rainfall to Phoenix. this morning. Let me start you up in the Northeast, though, where we're dealing with still ongoing windy conditions across much of New England into the Northeast and then farther up towards Maine, where we've got wind advisories, high wind warnings in effect. But let's talk about the two storm systems that have sort of split coming out from the west. You got one storm system bringing a lot of snow to portions of the Midwest, and then you've got that heavy rain moving out of Southern California across Arizona, where, again, Phoenix is picking up on a lot of rainfall right now as we speak. Across the country today, otherwise very warm conditions across the central and southern plains. Places like Dallas looking at high temperatures today around 83 degrees. That storm system bringing snow to the Midwest and central plains could pick up maybe 10 to 16 inches of snow. Meanwhile, chilly conditions across the northern tier and then back into portions of California, and the Pacific Northwest. Errol, back over to you.
All right, great. Thanks, Grant. We'll see you later this hour. A former Olympic snowboarder now on the FBI's most wanted list. Why? There is a $10 million reward for this man's arrest. Stay right there. You're streaming CBS News 24/7. Welcome back. Hamas is responding to the White House's ultimatum after President Trump issued what he called a last warning to the militant group and to the people of Gaza to release all remaining hostages or, quote, you are dead. CBS News foreign correspondent Deborah Patta joins me from Jerusalem with more on this. Deborah, CBS News spoke to a Hamas official. What did that official share as far as the president's warning and their reaction?
So, Errol, both the U.S. and Israel want Hamas to hand over the remaining hostages and leave Gaza. But this senior Hamas official, Mushir al-Masri, said that while Hamas doesn't want to run a post-war Gaza, it had no intention of leaving and would not lay down its arms until there was a Palestinian state. He stressed that the only way to free the hostages was for Israel to negotiate an end to the war and stick to the original ceasefire agreement as agreed to in January. He said President Trump's threats are essentially an open invitation to Israel to do whatever they want to the Palestinian people, but that they are not scared of Trump or, in fact, Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu. And he said that they're not scared of the possibility that they could unleash, in his words, a new hell on Gaza.
And Deborah, it sounds like that's a consistent position from Hamas. Perhaps there's something new there. And if so, let me know what that is. But meanwhile, what is the situation in Gaza and the state of the overall ceasefire? Because I know all week you've been reporting on how delicate it still is.
It's really going from, very bad to worse. Let's remember that Palestinians in Gaza are already dealing with a blockade by Israel, which has prevented all aid from entering the territory this week. And now on top of that, there are U.S. aid cuts, the ones that we've been seeing around the world from the Trump administration, also in Gaza. They've frozen hundreds of millions of dollars in contractual payments to aid groups, and many of them are paying out of their own pockets in a bid to preserve that very, very shaky ceasefire, which the Trump administration, in fact, helped to cement. So U.S. aid was supposed to fund most of the aid to Gaza as the ceasefire progressed. And officials say that the Trump administration approved over nearly $400 million at the end of January for exactly that purpose. Now they say that's in jeopardy. There have been no payments. The ceasefire really is hanging on by a thread, and no proper talks have begun. Witkoff, the senior Middle East envoy, Trump's envoy, will arrive in the region next week. But at this stage, it doesn't look like there are any meaningful talks scheduled for an end, a permanent end to the war, Errol.
Yeah, a sobering update from your part of the world, Deborah Patta. We appreciate it. Thank you. All right, I want to bring you this update now. Another person has died in connection to the growing measles outbreak. Health officials in New Mexico discovered a new case following the death of an unvaccinated individual you see in a southeastern county of the state. Now, the person's exact cause of death is unknown at this time. Earlier, CBS News medical contributor Dr. Celine Gowda told CBS Mornings that this is a highly preventable virus that can raise the risk for a host of other infections even after someone has recovered.
Measles infects immune cells, and when it does so, it damages immune cells, and it wipes out partially your memory, your immune system's memory to certain infections. So it leaves you more susceptible to getting some of those infections.
And Dr. Gowder added that there's no way to regain lost immunity. It simply takes time, and the only way to avoid infection is to get vaccinated. All right, now to this. A former Olympic snowboarder is making headlines for a much different reason this morning. Right now, there is a $10 million reward to find Ryan Wedding. He is accused of running a drug trafficking network and orchestrating multiple murders. Wedding was added to the 10 most wanted fugitives list just yesterday. CBS News reporter Andres Gutierrez brings us more.
Ryan Wedding, who once represented Canada in the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, has been on the run since 2015.
Wedding traded snow for another kind of powder, giving up world-class athletic pursuits for cocaine trafficking and involvement in murder.
He's known as El Jefe, according to the FBI, and it says Wedding used Los Angeles as a main hub for trafficking massive amounts of cocaine and fentanyl. From there, authorities say the drugs were distributed nationwide and into Canada, generating hundreds of millions of dollars. According to the FBI, Wedding is also accused of ordering multiple hits on people in Canada.
What does it take to get someone on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list?
You have two reasons why this person would be on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list: terrorism, drug trafficking, and really there's probably some information behind there that leads me to believe that they're getting close.
Wedding, who is wealthy, is dangerous and has connections in very high places.
On Thursday, investigators said he could be hiding in Mexico, possibly under the protection of the notoriously violent Sinaloa cartel.
His face will be on billboards, all over social media, and news reports internationally. With that many eyes on him, the public becomes our strongest partner.
A really jarring story. Andres Gutierrez, thank you for that. Still to come for you, chilling new text messages reveal the moments accused killer Bryan Kohberger walked through the Idaho home before the brutal murder of 4 college students took place. Stay here for details. You're streaming CBS News 24/7. A warm welcome back on your Friday. Here's a look at some of the big stories we're tracking at this moment. In Idaho, newly unsealed court documents reveal text messages sent between surviving roommates as a killer moved throughout their house. You'll remember back in 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were fatally stabbed inside a home near campus. That night, one of the roommates texted, quote, "I'm freaking out right now." Another urged their housemates to run downstairs to her room. The accused killer, Bryan Kohberger, faces trial in August, and a judge entered a not guilty plea on his behalf. Over in Pennsylvania, we're learning that black box recovered from the deadly Philadelphia plane crash never recorded the flight. The NTSB says the device likely hadn't recorded any sound for several years. The January crash killed all 6 people on the plane and another person on the ground. It also happened just days after that mid-air collision in Washington, D.C. And over in Maryland, a Baltimore judge ruled Adnan Syed, whose case gained fame through the Serial podcast, will remain free. The decision comes after multiple legal battles to overturn his 1999 conviction for the murder of ex-girlfriend Ayman Lee. Syed always maintained his innocence. Yesterday, the judge determined that he's not a danger to the public and that justice is best served by reducing his sentence to the 22 years he's already served in prison. All right, now to the latest on President Trump's mass deportation plans. CBS News has learned the Trump administration is reviving the controversial practice of detaining migrant families with children in ICE custody. CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya Galvez joins us here live in Studio 55. Camilo, always great to see you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Family detention. Controversial term we've heard of so many times. Is this really a feasible option, especially considering the capacity of these ICE facilities?
Well, make no mistake, Errol, this is a significant change by the Trump administration. Long-term family immigration detention was discontinued in 2021 back during the Biden administration because advocates and other officials argued that it was harmful to children and their psychological well-being, because we're talking about parents who are crossing the border illegally with minor children who are under the age of 17. And now the Trump administration is converting 2 detention facilities run by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, in Texas into family detention centers. In fact, one in Carson City, south of San Antonio, Antonio is now housing several families, including 3 children, we have learned here at CBS News. And the question about conditions is a good one, because advocates will argue that there are no conditions that are adequate to be detaining minor children. But of course, the Trump administration believes that this is needed to deter migrant families from crossing the border illegally.
Now, dissolving temporary protected status, the program, has been a target for the Trump administration. And how might that, though, impact Ukrainian refugees? Because so many of them are also in the U.S. under that protection.
It's a critical question. Just to level set, back in 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, the Biden administration set up a program known as Uniting for Ukraine that allowed Americans to sponsor the entry and the arrival of Ukrainian refugees fleeing that conflict. And hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians came under that process. That program has since been suspended by the Trump administration, and the administration is considering ending it and potentially revoking the legal status of the individuals who came under that policy. But we are told by officials at the Department of Homeland Security that no final decisions have been made yet. And when it comes to temporary protected status, or TPS, that was also granted to Ukrainians, and the administration is moving quickly to phase out many TPS programs, and it has already done so for Venezuelans and Haitians.
And with they're Ukrainian or from Central or South America, you wonder what happens to these people, their families, their livelihood. Another topic that you've been doing some in-depth reporting on is how immigration and policies are impacting the price of milk. Tell us about that.
That's right. So we traveled to the heart of America's dairyland, Wisconsin, to see firsthand how interconnected the issues of immigration, milk production, and labor are. And they are very much deeply connected. We went to one farm that really is a microcosm of that situation. The farmer there told us that most of his employees are in the U.S. illegally. They are immigrants from Mexico, and that he has tried to hire American citizens to work on the farm to milk the cows, but none have showed up to apply for that job. And so he has to rely now on undocumented immigrants for labor. And we posed him the question, what happens, Errol, if all these people who are working on your farm are deported as the Trump administration would like? And he said he would go out of business immediately.
It's another example of these employers saying they would hire Americans if Americans would take those jobs. I'm eager to see some more of your reporting. Camilo Montoya-Galvez, great to see you.
Thanks, Errol.
Thanks for this. And to learn more about the connection between immigrant workers and dairy prices, watch CBS Reports. It's a new documentary, The Price of Milk, premiering Sunday on CBS News 24/7 and on Paramount+. All right, this morning, China's foreign minister criticized U.S. tariffs, calling them, quote, two-faced acts. The comments come after the Trump administration imposed an additional 10% tariff on imports from Beijing, bringing the total levy to 20%. CBS News foreign correspondent Anna Corin brings us more from Beijing.
With an escalation in the US-China trade war earlier this week, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi addressed the media today in his annual press conference, vowing that Beijing will, quote, resolutely counter US tariffs. In a highly choreographed session with local and foreign media, the foreign minister, without mentioning the US president by name, made a point of America's lack of sincerity in its behaviour towards China and Trump's public remarks of wanting a good relationship with President Xi.
任何一个国家都不能幻想一边对华打压遏制，一边又与中国发展良好关系。
Well, days ago, China announced ambitious plans for growth during its National People's Congress meeting, not only in response to Trump's tariffs, but to strengthen its economy, where youth unemployment, deflation, and the property crisis remain central issues. But Beijing has been preparing for this moment since the first trade war began back in 2018. Now the global leader in key industries and reducing its reliance on the United States. Well, President Trump is now dealing with a very different and defiant China. Back to you.
Anna, thank you. All right, we want to bring you this breaking news just into our newsroom. President Trump is expected to make remarks directly from the Oval Office at 11 a.m. That's fewer than 30 minutes away. At this point, we don't know exactly the topic, but he has spoken to reporters from behind the Resolute desk. This will be the president's first address to the nation from the Oval Office. We'll bring you live coverage here on CBS News 24/7 as soon as it begins, so stay tuned for that. All right, this morning, Pope Francis is said to be in stable enough condition that the Vatican doesn't plan to issue a new health update until tomorrow. As you know by now, it's been 3 weeks since he was hospitalized with double pneumonia. He's not out of the woods just yet, but yesterday the pontiff was able to issue a new audio message to his followers. CBS News foreign correspondent Chris Livesay brings us more from Rome.
Well, the fact that Pope Francis can make this audio recording is indeed an encouraging sign. Him addressing the people who have been gathering now for 2 weeks on a nightly basis here behind me in St. Peter's Square to recite the rosary and pray for the pontiff, who has been hospitalized for 3 weeks for double pneumonia. Initially, it was just a bad case of bronchitis, and it's since devolved into something much worse, which you can hear in his voice as he makes this recording. At times he comes across as breathless, but also just exhibiting his gratitude for the people who have been praying for him nonstop ever since. Now, according to the Vatican, he remains in stable condition. He hasn't had any more instances of this acute respiratory insufficiency like he suffered twice back earlier this week when doctors had to intervene and aspirate mucus from his air passageways, reflecting just a level of transparency that we're not used to at the Vatican when it comes to a pope's health. But Pope Francis has instructed his doctors and the Vatican to be as transparent as possible. His prognosis remains guarded, meaning we still don't know if or when he's going to be discharged from the hospital and if he's going to get better or worse. Keep in mind, he is an 88-year-old man suffering from double pneumonia, and one of his lungs is already impaired. He had part of it removed when he suffered from pneumonia as a very young man. So it remains a very serious situation for Pope Francis. Back to you.
All right, Chris Livesay, thank you for that. All right, believe it or not, it is that time of year again when the clocks spring ahead on Sunday, so we will all lose an hour of sleep. CBS News' Danya Bacchus explains why some health experts actually think this is harmful for all of us, and we need to stop the time change.
Clocks move forward this Sunday for daylight saving time, and just like clockwork, the debate over seasonal time changes springs into action.
Do you usually kind of look forward to when we have to spring forward?
I honestly have to Google every time whether that's the one that I lose sleep on or gain sleep on, so I'm not sure if I should dread this one.
Why bother doing it? Like, does it really help anything? Does it really save us any daylight? Like, I don't see the need for it anymore.
Research has shown the ritual of changing the clocks in spring and fall can impact productivity and our mental and physical health.
Honestly, even sleeping in an hour, I get groggy, and then losing the hour, I just get evil.
It's why the American Academy of Sleep Medicine wants to eliminate seasonal time changes.
It's harder to go to bed when it's light out, so that can make it harder to fall asleep, but yet our responsibilities are the same in terms of waking up for school, waking up for work.
Dr. Anita Shelgakar is president of the Academy, which recommends moving to year-round permanent standard time.
In permanent standard time, our internal body clock is best aligned with the sun and external light from the sun. It's what's best for our overall health and well-being.
Before taking office, President Trump posted his support for ending daylight saving time, saying it is inconvenient and very costly to our nation.
Personally, I think one and done. I think the adjustment, it's definitely worse when you're losing your time.
To help adjust, Dr. Shelgakar says expose yourself to bright light right away in the morning, maintain a consistent sleep and wake schedule, and minimize caffeine later in the day. Danya Bacchus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Thank you for that, Danya. Let's bring in CBS News Philadelphia meteorologist Grant Gilmore, who loves his coffee. He can't get enough of the stuff, so I don't know what he makes of this. Grant, how does the weather look, and how much coffee do you drink?
Whatever's available is what I take,
Yeah, okay,
one cup in the morning
stuff.
and then exactly, whatever is free, whatever they're serving, I'll take for sure. All right, let's talk about this. It is Friday. You made it. Maybe you're drinking your coffee right now. Let's talk about what we have going on around the country here this morning. A couple of storm systems, in fact, 2 storm systems just really from the Mississippi River to the west. We are dealing with an exiting storm system that is very slow to move out, but you'll also notice, looking across the desert southwest, we've got an additional storm system that brought heavy rain to Southern California yesterday, and now it's actually bringing rainfall to Phoenix. Let's talk about the storm system that is slowly exiting the Northeast. It brought severe weather a couple of days ago, but this low pressure system is now producing very windy conditions. Many states, in fact, anywhere from Maryland and Delaware all the way up to Maine underneath these wind advisories and these high wind warnings with wind speeds in excess of 40 to nearly 50 miles per hour. These winds will gradually begin to die down as we go into the day tomorrow, but still a very windy day ahead of us today before we start to see those decreasing wind gusts through Saturday into Sunday. Meanwhile, we've got a winter storm moving across the central part of the United States. Some places from Nebraska over into Iowa could see upwards to 10 inches of snow, and then the storm system moving across the desert Southwest into the high plains, producing breezy conditions. This also fueling the threat for some extreme, or at least critical, fire danger later on this afternoon. Let's track the storm systems moving across the country here. Again, heavy snow, heavy rainfall, all in the cards, and then those wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour across the high plains and south could produce that concern for fire danger through the weekend, with then more rain moving across the Gulf states into the Saturday and Sunday time period. Errol, back to you.
All right, Grant, thank you for that. At least we're drinking coffee and tea rather than energy drinks. Anybody remember that from back in college, the Red Bulls and all of that? Anyway, I digress. I bet these folks are having their energy drinks. Crowds descending on Austin, Texas for the start of South by Southwest. Next, we'll take you there for everything you need to know about this year's festival. You're streaming CBS News 24/7. And we are back. South by Southwest 2025 is officially underway. For the very first installment of the Music and Media Showcase back in 1987, only 700 people showed up. Today, it's grown to a gathering really of epic proportions. You've got hundreds of thousands of attendees flocking to Austin, Texas every spring. Let's bring in Emily Longaretta now. She is Variety's senior TV features editor. Emily, great to see you. Good morning. I don't know how many South by Southwest festivals you've attended. I haven't attended any, but I'm very interested. So what are you looking forward to most this year?
Yeah, absolutely. We are live from Austin right now. I'm really excited about some of the big stars and big films and TV shows that are coming this year, because there are 111 movies and 17 series premiering here. So there's everyone from Ben Affleck, Seth Rogen, Blake Lively, Paul Rudd, Nicole Kidman, Matthew McConaughey. I mean, it's really showing their star power this year and how big this festival has become, and how it really is holding a candle to the other festivals that have been so big through the years. And like you said, it's been around for many, many years, but it continues to grow, with the latest numbers of attendees being 300,000. So it's going to be quite a packed city for this upcoming week.
And just to show how outdated my thinking was, it was a couple of years ago when I thought that, and I was like, well, now it's cool. No one really wants to go, and it's only grown more since then. And it's more than just kind of a media and music showcase. There's a tech component. And how did this evolve? I guess it is evolving into something more and bigger.
Absolutely. Every year it kind of adds something new to it. Last year there was a lot of elements about AI and how that is growing and impacting every single bit of the industry. I mean, regardless of what part you're in. And this year that's kind of just proving to be the point as well. I mean, the lineup is everything from music, and there's A-list performers to, like I said, film and TV, tech. Michelle Obama is coming and doing a conversation about her production company. They have lifted all the limits that they have. And this is also the first time in 3 years that it's not the same weekend as the Oscars. So I think we can also assume that a lot of the growth is because of that, because no matter what part of the industry you're in, that draws a lot more people.
And because it's grown, you've got more sponsors, more people participating. And I think last year there was even a bit of controversy surrounding one of the festival's sponsor. What happened?
Yes, so last year the U.S. Army was a super sponsor, and as well as many of the companies that are manufacturing weapons, including RTX Corp, which is one of the biggest. And it led to more than 80 artists withdrawing from the festival because of wanting to show their support for Palestine. So this year, the festival announced early on that they were stopping that major partnership. They were putting that aside. They were not going to be partnering with any companies who engage in weapon manufacturing. So now they're leaning more back into the partnerships they were seeing years before. So a lot of that is media and consumer products that are a lot less controversial. With the state of the world today, they kind of want to stay away from that.
Yeah, really interesting stuff. Emily Longaretta, thank you so much. I know you're working hard, but try and have fun as well, all right, this weekend. Enjoy yourself. Thanks for joining us. All right, coming up next, a second SpaceX Starship failure in a row. Did you see this? We'll explain what went wrong during the uncrewed test launch. You're in the right place, streaming CBS News 24/7. So we've been discussing a lot about tariffs this week and the back and forth between the White House and leaders of Canada and Mexico. But the uncertainty of the economic impact is hitting local businesses. CBS News Bay Area reporter Suji Nam takes a closer look from San Francisco.
When you sit down at a Mexican restaurant, you probably order some chips and guac. And maybe a margarita or two. Phil Havlicek, the third-generation owner of Celia's by the beach, has been whipping up his family's dishes for years.
Margarita is a very simple drink, but because all the ingredients come from Mexico, that's going to affect the price.
With President Donald Trump pausing 25% tariffs until April 2nd, Phil is hoping to spend that time preparing to stock up on essential items like limes and tequila. He buys up to 15 cases of limes weekly, ranging from $30 to $200 a case. He is looking toward the future.
I will definitely go to my suppliers and try and stock up on everything that I can at this price point.
According to the Department of Agriculture, the U.S. imported more than $45 billion worth of products from Mexico in 2023.
Mexico.
Nearly 75% of those imports included alcohol, fruit and vegetables. Avocado, a key import.
This is $15. If there's a 25% increase, your guacamole appetizer is going to go up towards $20. And if there's a scarcity on avocados and avocados double, triple in price, well, most restaurants will just not offer that for you.
Phil says he spends upward of $2,000 on avocados alone each week, and says he will have no choice but to soon increase the prices on the menu to keep his business open. He's worried, however, this will discourage customers from going out to eat.
It just started to feel like things were getting better, and to add kerosene onto that, those embers is only going to, create a bigger flame.
Longtime customers like Billy Cotter, however, says a higher tab won't stop him from supporting local businesses.
If they get charged double, I'd still come here.
He says these tariffs are something he and his family will have to adjust to.
I have to work more to pay for things, so yeah, it's not great, but what are you going to do? I'm not going anywhere.
And as for Phil, in a time of uncertainty of what the future holds,
no matter what's thrown in our way, we stay positive and we just keep figuring out a way.
He says he will continue to do what he does best, carrying on his grandmother Celia's legacy, one home-cooked meal at a time. Suji Nam, CBS News, San Francisco.
Really interesting there. All right, take a look at this. Fiery debris raining across the skies. Quite mesmerizing in some of the footage we saw. This is after part of a SpaceX rocket broke apart over the Caribbean, and it happened during a test launch from South Texas yesterday. Now, the uncrewed rocket's engine reportedly shut down minutes after takeoff and then lost contact with ground control, spun out of control, and then you see here the aftermath as it exploded. This was the second SpaceX Starship failure in a matter of months. Another rocket exploded during a test launch back in January, you'll remember. All right, let's bring in CBS News Philadelphia meteorologist Grant Gilmore with a look at your national forecast. How are we heading into the weekend, Grant?
Well, we're getting rid of one system, Errol, and a new system is moving across the country right now. But at least for the folks in the Northeast, these windy conditions that we've had for the last couple of days, now they will continue today, where we've got several wind advisories, even a couple of high wind warnings in Massachusetts. Those windy conditions will gradually relax as we head through the first half of the weekend. Meanwhile, a storm system actually split in two. One storm system moving across the Midwestern states, producing winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings. Also, another storm system across Arizona, bringing heavy rainfall to Phoenix this morning. Both of these storm systems will drop a decent amount of snow, but in between both of them, how about some mild to even warm conditions across the central and southern United States? Houston looking at a high temperature this afternoon of 81 degrees. And then across the northern Tier 6 states, Pacific Northwest into California, temperatures a little bit chilly, But these systems move east as we go through the next couple of days. Errol, back to you. Have a great weekend, man.
All right, I will do, Grant, you as well. And that does it for me. I'll see you Monday on the CBS Morning News, but stay right where you are. Mugo Odigwe is live from San Francisco, and in moments, President Trump will deliver remarks from the Oval Office, and we will bring it to you live. This is CBS News 24/7.